Hi and welcome back to my playthrough of Mount Everest. I really do apologize for the long wait between these two episodes, but I was really not feeling well and you might still hear it, my voice is a little bit worn out, but I really couldn't wait to continue my playthrough of Mount Everest here. So if I may sound a little bit strange to you, I also apologize for that. But now let's dive into gameplay. But first of all, I have to make a correction, of course, and thanks to the designer who made me aware of my mistake here. So of course, when resting or when these clients are resting in a tent, they would gain another level of acclimatization. So not only this one here, but also one additional point for the tent itself, for the camp. So all of my clients are now at level 2. I was also being told that it's not a very wise idea to set a camp below the 6,000 meter line here. But yeah, as I'm still learning this game, I cannot help it. So I think my first more or less reaction to say, let's send the blue guide somewhere below 6,000, maybe to the 7,000 mark here as well, was, I think, the right decision to go. But as I'm experimenting a little bit with the play here or with the game here, I think that should be okay. Red is now the starting player, so we can directly dive into the first phase of this turn, and this would be the card selection. And I decided to take these 3 cards, so 1, then this rope here with 3 up and 2 down, and another 2 movement card. And I think blue will take these 3 cards. I think this is right now what he might need. And we remember the value here, though he has a movement value of 5 in total, whereas red has a total movement value of 6. And note, on these rope cards here, only the upward movement is being counted. So that means that red has to choose a risk token. But that's not really a problem, so he will just go with this 0 risk token here, so he doesn't suffer any movement penalty here. Let's start with the red player. He is the first player in this round. So first of all, we will use the 2 movement card here to bring this guide 2 spaces back to the base camp. And there he will load another tent and 1 oxygen, and this is already the limit for this guide. Not sure if that's a wise decision, but I think I will play this card here on the second climber and we'll flip around this ice token. And yeah, that's again a normal terrain, so you see this ladder, so this cost only 1 movement point here. So he has now still 2 or this card left to go, but I think now I will use this on this climber that's at the base camp. I think that's possible, so we will move him up 1, 2 and 3 spaces. So now 2 guides are at the same space here, but in this height this is not a problem. So as you can see, in a 2-player game, 2 guides can share 1 space. These were already the 3 actions for the red player. And note, we didn't have to do anything regarding this risk token because it's a 0 value. Then we come to the blue player, and I think he will only use this 1 guide here. So this would be 3, 4, 5 movement points. And we will move the guide appropriately. So that's 2 movement points here, 3, 4 and 5. And I was planning to place the camp at this height. My problem is I forgot that you need to spend movement points equal to the requirement of movement points to enter this space. So I would need an additional movement point here to do that. I think I might have forgotten that also during the first turn for the red player, but this is something I cannot help here anymore. But I will play it right for the blue player, so he has not any movement points left, so he will not be allowed to place his camp at this turn. But this time we must not forget to equip the second guide as well, so he will take a tent with him, or a camp, And I think this time he will use this last slot here to bring an actual client with him. So I hope we of course not reached the summit yet. So now this guide is also fully loaded. Now we have to do the weather check, and any clients in this height here between 6 and 8,000 would lose 2 levels of acclimatization. Luckily, no client is in this zone between 6 and 8,000. All these penalties, all these acclimatization checks do not apply for the guides. It's been considered that they are so well trained, so they don't care a lot about the harsh weather conditions at Mount Everest, and they will never die in this game. Then we come to the actual acclimatization check. So now all these clients would again gain 2 levels of acclimatization, so they would theoretically move on field number 5, which is of course not there yet. But also it has to be kept in mind that we will only reduce down to the maximum level of acclimatization at the end of this acclimatization check phase. This is very important because this would really allow you to bring the clients up to Mount Everest, whatever, pushing them up to whatever level 8 or so with any oxygen tanks or acclimatization cards and such. And only at the end of this check they will be reduced to their maximum. So right now nothing else does happen, so we can do that. So we will move these experienced climbers to level 3 and the tourist to level 3, these to 4 and these to 3. We must also not forget that the blue climber, or one of the blue guides, has also tourist next to him, so we can also increase the acclimatization level of this tourist here, because right now he's at base camp and this means he would gain a level of acclimatization. Again, we will move the starting player token back to the blue player. We move the date track 1 space ahead. We have now 2 days of nice weather here at Mount Everest. Then the players will draw again 3 additional cards. So he's now back at 6, and the same goes for the blue player. And then each player chooses his 3 cards for this round. So this will be the cards for the blue player. And I think red goes with the 3 cards. It really took me a long time to decide, because I'm now really realizing that placing the camp here below this at the very start of this path basically to the summit is really not a good idea. So I think basically red doesn't have any chance to win this game, because at the higher levels you really need a camp, because you see all these red tokens here, which means when they rest there they would lose 1 level of acclimatization, and of course this is something you can balance out with a camp. But the problem is red cannot bring anyone up there. Maybe he really can bring a camp somewhere here or so, but this is already very risky, I guess. Again, red has more movement points than blue, so he has 6 and blue player has 5 movement points. So again, he has to choose one of these risk tokens, and I forgot to bring one back when we have chosen one. And of course, again, he will go with this 1 risk token here, because this is definitely not a problem. This time I will directly flip another one. Now we have 2 2s and 1 1, so it might get tougher in future turns. So we place the risk token here so that we don't forget. And I think blue can start, and he will play this card here with an upward movement of 1 node. Only upward moving on a rope card is being allowed for placing a camp, and this is what he's going to do. So this guide will place a camp here and will also offload this oxygen tank here. The 2 additional cards I have still left, this is this one, 2 and 2, and I think not so sure. I think I will use this 2 card for this guide down here to move him up 1 2 spaces, and we'll use this downward ladder here basically with a you can see that downward movement here with a value of 4 for this other guide here to bring him down, and maybe he will exchange the clients or so with the other guide here. So this will be 1 2 3, and 4. So basically they can meet somewhere in between and then exchange the camp and the climber. This is definitely possible, and I think this is really something that I will try to do here in the next turn. So now it's really getting tough. Let me check. So I will use only this guide in this turn, and I will play all the 3 movement cards on this guide. So theoretically this would be an upward movement of 6 points. Unfortunately we have to deal with the risk token here, so we only have an upward movement of 5. I cannot lose any acclimatization because he does not have any clients with him, so we just have to suffer that. So let's see where we can send this guide. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we really have to go the more dangerous but much shorter route to the summit here. So I think because of his missing camp we have to take the risk here to really bring them very quickly through the levels of Mount Everest. Again, we do the weather check. The weather is fine, but again there wouldn't be any clients in the danger zone. So again we would do the acclimatization check, so they would gain 2 levels, but again they would be reduced to the maximum. But this guide here has the tourist with him, so he can raise the acclimatization level 1 step ahead. Let's move the starting player back to the red player. We will now come to the 4th day, so this will just be discarded. We will move this to the left, we will flip this around, and wow, see that. So this will be some very bad news. So a complete 3 days of bad weather. Not really terrible weather, but definitely bad weather. So definitely something we have to keep in mind. So we really have to think, maybe start here to the summit and then we might be able to make it. But definitely this is something where we should not send any clients to the danger zone the next day. Again, each player will draw 3 new cards. This is for red, this is for blue. And I think I will end my playthrough here. So these were 2 turns. So to give you some better understanding how the game mechanics work. Hopefully I haven't made another mistake. Of course, in respect to strategy or tactics, I already did a very bad mistake by placing the camp of the red player here below the 6,000 meter line. But yeah, have to deal with it. I'm learning it. So again, don't be mad at me. Still, I think I will now follow 2 different approaches. So the red player will place his camp somewhere between 7,000 and 8,000 to maybe get a chance to bring the climbers up there. I think the blue player was a little bit more cautious by using, let's say, normal measures. So I think he will place, or he has this camp here already below the 7,000 meters line. I think he will then place another camp somewhere close to the 8,000 line, or maybe even above. I don't know yet. So we will have definitely 2 stops where the clients can gain some levels of acclimatization back. There are already some clients waiting for the summit. Still not very high above the base camp, but yeah, this was my decision. But I think during the next 2 turns we might definitely see maybe the first victory points, but we might also suffer again our first losses in respect to tourists. I hope you enjoyed it so far. I hope to see you in my next episode of my playthrough here. I really tried my best to keep the break between these 2 episodes as short as possible. Hopefully my voice gets better. I already feel it that it's getting worse again, but I still hope I will not keep you waiting for too long. Yeah, and then until the next episode, hope to see you soon. Bye bye.